Hi. In a few minutes, I am going to be seeing the latest Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker. Hopefully it's good. I hope. Hmm.
Well, in case I haven't made it abundantly clear, this is a spoiler-filled review, so please advise caution and such. Well, I'm glad to report that absolutely every rumor you heard about this is true. Absolutely every one of them. Claude, the Space Horses, the Jedi, Palpatine, all of it. Now, for the sake of complete clarity on the subject, I want y'all to know that I ate a whole bag of cannabis-laced gummies during this movie I was observing. So, in addition to being a biased opinion, I was also tripping balls at the time. But maybe that's just improving my opinion on the film, so, don't worry, it's legal here. Anyway, this is your last chance to avoid spoilers, so please don't continue with this review if you really want to see the film. I have only a neutral opinion on it. Kind of positive, kind of serviceable, but I feel that it's okay if you really want to see it. It's not as bad as The Last Jedi. Anyway, for those interested in hearing my review, I gotta say, yeah, really, all of it is proven to be correct. Within the first few minutes of the movie, it is established that Palpatine has returned through some scientific means, possibly cloning, or just some sort of medical apparatus, like something out of Warhammer 40k. Also, he has a vat full of what I believe are clones of, what's his name, Snoke? That guy with the weird shaped head. And supposedly Snoke was just part of his all master plan as the grandiose puppet master who cheated death. And really, this is not a good direction to take Palpatine in. It really does undermine his previous defeat. Also, he really was hoarding an entire battalion of starships and the crew to pilot them all on a barren secret world, which is one hell of a backup plan, especially when you consider that each one of those starships is equipped with a planet buster, just like the Death Star. It's really peculiar why that wouldn't be plan A, rather than this backup plan. Also, the Knights of Ren are in this film, but they don't seem to serve much purpose other than being direct agents of Palpatine. Furthermore, it's weird they're called the Knights of Ren, because that would imply their loyalty is pledged to Kylo Ren, even though that's really not the case. Also, within the beginning of this movie, we do see an iceberg of sorts in space that has been colonized. An ice meteorite of sorts. It's being mined out by what I think is an Australian alien, given the accent. Anyway, we also learn that even in this advanced computer world, they use these really old-looking wires to plug things in, like not USB ports at all. It's really clunky-looking technology. And there's some light speed jumping to weird looking planets, which probably were interesting, but we only get a glimpse of each one. And most infamously of all is Claude. Claude, the big yellow depressed space phallic alien. Big sad penis he is. It is just weird that they have this character design. And they really did name him Claude. They seriously named him Claude. You see him twice in the movie. It's weird. I thought the name Claude was just something the fans speculated and made up, but no, they're really going ahead with that. Not that I mind, but jeez. And we also get a training scene on a jungle planet with Rey, and Carrie Fisher awkwardly inserted into scenes through the use of archive footage and special effects. Yeah, I know. It's a seriously ironic situation the director is in, because characters who survived the previous movie were played by a dead actress, and the characters who died in the film are played by actors who are still alive today. And it's really inconvenient. On the bright side, it does look like some criticism has been taken into account, namely Rey being a Mary Sue. It appears as though she does have a preference for staff-like weapons rather than the lightsaber, as that seems to be her greater skill. But she's already gone pretty far as is, and many other issues from the previous film are hard to rectify. Now, that new force power that was established in the previous film, basically telepathically connecting to another force user across the galaxy, still remains and is a cause for Rey to be influenced by Kylo Ren. And I guess he really is corrupting Rey, it would seem, in some way, because she's acting out all impulsively and angry. I don't know. So evidently the whole impetus of this situation is that Palpatine has been broadcasting an announcement of his resurrection all over the galaxy somehow, and this does alert the good guys as well as the bad guys. But this seems like a really bad idea given that the good guys are now on their tail, and they know that they gotta go looking for a Sith artifact. And they go off to what is basically Burning Man on yet another desert planet. The aliens there seem less like hippies and more like some ethnicity. They got tentacles, so maybe they're Cthulhu's. I don't know. They're polite, friendly. Isn't this whole situation with finding an artifact kind of similar to that one spin-off story, The Splinter of the Mind's Eye? Anyway, it really is a dagger that's going to be the clue to finding the Waystone or Wayfinder thing, or Pathfinder or whatever they call it. A big green glowing triangle thingy, which I'm pretty sure I saw in a video game once. Anyway, an actual dagger is the clue, and it gets even dumber than that, if you can believe it. There's some convoluted plot about Rey seeing the same spaceship that left her on Jakku, and the pilot of it being responsible for that. And there's that infamous Dio robot. It's basically like that living lamp from the Pixar short, except it's a droid that can talk. And it's pretty useless if not for one plot thread. And speaking of pointless, Chewbacca gets captured and then presumed dead by stormtroopers, and Rey has the power to move an entire spaceship with the Force, and so does Kylo Ren. Now, I'm a bit more forgiving of this sort of thing, because there is precedent from the video games, and that was an even larger ship at an even larger distance. So, I can forgive that. I can also forgive the tremendous skill the characters have when searching for something in the desert, because that kind of is Rey's way of life for her entire formative years. Now, the real infamous thing in this series is the use of Force healing. Now, I know it makes sense that the Jedi should be able to do that. It seems like a really good skill for them to develop historically. However, it does raise all kinds of continuity issues, even from the prequel trilogy and original trilogy and everything in between. You see, I'm sure that video games use it because it's a good mechanic, but if every Jedi can Force heal, then there's a lot of situations where people should have been able to survive, yet they don't. And that criticism itself even happens within this same movie. Yes, I'm not kidding. Lando is there. I should mention that Lando is there. Now, evidently, C-3PO is hard programmed not to translate anything written in Sith. I can imagine that the Galactic Republic would view that as like an innately evil language and no good could come of it, so all droids are hardwired to resist that programming. Resist complying with that, sort of like Asimov's three rules of robotics. As such, C-3PO needs to have his brain reformatted in order to translate the message inscribed on the dagger. That means going to an alien chop shop or something. It's frosty over there. And that teeny tiny alien that looks like it came from Flight of the Navigator is the technician. And also there were spice runners, whatever that is, and this one lady in a full piece costume. She's like Samus, sort of, but has both hands. Supposedly, Finn is trying to have some kind of relationship with Rey, but it just doesn't seem to be working out. And he gets paired off with this other black lady who was a former stormtrooper, so it's like he's just trying to establish a relationship with a gender-swapped version of himself. It's kind of weird and odd that they pigeonhole people to relationships based on race. So it turns out Hux is the traitor, and that either means he was intentionally fouling up the Empire from within, or he really was that stupid and incompetent and caused all their failures. It's also worth mentioning that Kylo Ren has his helmet repaired and now has these red, edgy looking cracks through it, black on red color scheme that all the edgelords use. Like Shadow the Hedgehog and Spawn, that sort of color scheme. I can see why they did that. Just another one of the mistakes made from the previous film. And now we must correct that mistake and set things back to the previous status quo. And then they travel to planet Endor. Or is it the moon Endor? It's the homeworld of the Ewoks. Those fuzzy little shits. Anyway, and then the most contrived coincidence happens. You see, that blade, that ancient Sith blade that they were looking for as a relic, it is somehow in the exact shape that correlates to the wreckage of the Death Star component found on Endor. That would suggest either this is an ancient relic that is built a predestination of the future, a predetermined fate, or that dagger isn't nearly as old as we think and was actually carved on the planet Endor itself in observance of the wreckage. And if that's the case, what is the damn point? Okay, so I am quite forgiving of this next scene because Rey goes searching through the wreckage of the Death Star in order to find what she's looking for. Now, of course, she's a scavenger by trade, so she's had a lifetime of experience doing that. What doesn't make sense for her to have a lifetime of experience with is working a parasail, or some sort of boat, since she's lived in the desert her whole life. Also, for some reason on Endor is home to a tribe of Empire defectors and their space horses. Yes, those space horses. We'll be talking about them later. So, the infamous scene of Dark Rey happens, and, the internet already poked fun at the situation, so no need for me to elaborate. She's got these weird nutcracker sort of dual blades. It's like if someone tried making a switchblade version of Darth Maul's dual staff weapon lightsaber thingy. But thankfully that stupidity is over very quickly. Rey and Kylo fight some more on the wreckage, and it's quite epic, kind of. And Rey heals him at the last minute, because that's the noble thing to do, I suppose. and Kylo Ren begins to have second thoughts about being a bad guy and whatnot. Also, Leia sacrifices herself, and it's definitely confirmed that when a Force user expels all their Force energy, they just vanish without their clothing. You know, like everything but their clothing has disappeared. So, sort of like what happened to Ben Kenobi and Yoda, and evidently all Leia was trying to do at that moment was give a distraction to Kylo, and it turned out badly for him. So even non-Force users can have Force ghosts, as Harrison Ford returns as the ghost of Han Solo, and he has a heart-to-heart conversation with his son, and, switches sides. Kylo really did turn to the light side. So Rey uses the other Pathfinder device that Kylo had, supposedly as some sort of serious existential dilemma, because she just gives up, just like Luke did, and goes right back to that alien island planet and scuttles her own ship and the map. But Luke appears again as a Force ghost and convinces her to go back on all this, and he even telepathically lifts up the old spaceship X-Wing that he had, even though it really shouldn't be in good condition now. And Rey has been conflicted all this time because she's afraid she'll turn to the dark side and become the new Empress Palpatine, as she would be. But she goes to that secret Sith planet anyway and has to confront Palpatine. Also, the new Sith troopers have red armor, because, I guess it's necessary. And because she used Luke's old ship, apparently everyone in the rebellion was able to track the path she took to get to the Sith planet, whatever the name they gave it. I don't quite recall. Anyway, that secret Sith planet is now basically public knowledge now, because there's going to be all kinds of people following her in. Oh, boy. On the bright side, Chewbacca did get the award from Leia that he really should have gotten at the conclusion of A New Hope. Oh well, things are fair eventually. So, the Final Order, as they call themselves, launches an all-out assault on the galaxy with all their new navy, even though supposedly they're all being coordinated with this one antenna on the planet. Yes, one antenna is coordinating all this, and the rebellion goes in to try and take them out. And Rey confronts Palpatine, who gives a standard evil villain speech and a big ass throne for villains to rule over. And he's got all these mechanical parts to him, like a life support. And supposedly Rey tries beating him with the power of love, because opposing villains, the key to defeating them, because you don't give in to hate and give in to the dark side. Even though they're all quite content with killing as many minions and servants of the Empire, just as long as they don't do the big bad. That doesn't make any sense, though. Anyway, Palpatine sucks the life force right out of them, and yeah, Kylo joined in, even fighting off the Knights of Ren, and now they both have blue lightsabers because they're good guys, and it's really not working out in their favor, because Palpatine is all the power of the Sith at once, supposedly. He's got this big old ritual room or some shit on his planet that constantly has lightning and no other natural qualities to the planet surface whatsoever. Is that whole thing artificial? What the hell? And just as we predicted, Rey displays Mary Sue powers, because just as Palpatine claims to be all of the Sith combined together, Rey is all the Force combined together. So of course she can overpower Palpatine by holding two lightsabers together in an X formation, flaxes lightning back on him, even though Palpatine is somehow so powerful, he can use his Force lightning to target every enemy ship in the Rebellion specifically and damage their ships with that lightning power. That is so overkill, it's not even funny. Also, everyone joined to help the Resistance at the last minute, like some sort of Dunkirk scene or Les Mis or some shit. And they really don't seem like a match for this final order, even so. So with Rey fighting Palpatine to turn the side, it seems as though Kylo has been slain, and the Rebellion deploys their infamous Space Forces. Though I will say in their defense, they're not really in space, they're just high up in the atmosphere, so it's plausible they could breathe. Plausible. Everything else gets really silly when they try and fight on the surface of a spacecraft. But as it turns out, Kylo isn't dead, and he uses his Force powers or something to heal Rey at the last minute, because evidently he can do Force healing as well. But this last effort takes up all his life force, and as established previously, when that happens, a Jedi just sort of vanishes. So, you'd think it'd be a turnabout situation where you could just heal the healer if that happens, but no, that took it all out of him and he's dead. So, Rey just unloads on Palpatine, sending his Force lightning back on him, killing him, disintegrating him, nuking that throne for some reason, just generally obliterating the Temple of the Sith. And it was pretty darn anticlimactic, because this is retreaded territory that was kind of done better previously. Jeez. Am I forgetting something? Is there anything extra stupid? I remember Claude was around, but he's not nearly as big as we thought. Oh, right. That's right. You see, Rey is confirmed to be the blood relative of Palpatine, and thus she's like kind of genetically engineered to be the ideal super soldier, ultimate Jedi Sith thing, whatever. And that makes sense. But the thing is, wasn't the expanded universe stating that Palpatine engineered Anakin, used the Force to impregnate Anakin's mother, thus that makes Anakin Skywalker the son of Palpatine? And if that's the case, doesn't their lineage get a bit mixed-matched? You know, Rey would thus be a cousin to Kylo, and it gets pretty darn awkward when you see them kissing, and it's really weird, and I feel like that shouldn't have happened. Oh, and worst of all, once everyone else is dead, there's nothing left of the Jedi, nothing left of the Sith. Rey decides it's all her, and she just moves in to the Skywalker homestead, or the Skywalker ranch, as some might call it. She just moves in there and changes her last name to Skywalker so she can claim to be the one and only Skywalker left. It's just nuts and crazy, and I see more Force ghosts, and the scene ends just as it was on Tatooine with the two suns setting. And what a mess of a film. I can see how they were making so many adjustments to improve upon the final result, but damn, you can see it's a train wreck. It's like they're trying to fix all the mistakes of the previous movie, but everything's gone haywire and nuts. And supposedly there's thousands, well, more like a dozen rewrites to the script, and even still I can see holes in it, and it's nuts and crazy, and it's making me drunk just thinking about it. Anyway, that was the Rise of Skywalker. What the heck? And also, Rose Tico proves that she's unable to intervene this time when Finn tries to sacrifice his life for the cause. Yes, just like that infamous scene in the previous movie. Except, she can't, because it wasn't such a bad idea in the first place. What a hypocrite she is. Also, I know this is a bit of an odd topic to bring up, but Rey has been living in relative poverty in the desert all this time. How come she's devoid of body hair and armpit hair? It's just something I noticed right now. And I know the practical reasons behind it, but still.